You need to have a text on there to identify what that's for. A scanning tool can tell you if you have an alternate text or not. It can simply give you a yes or no, but it can't provide that human context understanding of what is the picture actually of, and does it help a person understand why it's there. So a really simple example of why, again, you need to have people looking at these to understand exactly what's wrong and how to make those fixes.
In your expert opinion, when you see new and emerging technologies, specifically focused on web, is there a disregard for people that have a disability? And is this notion of compliance a complete afterthought?
It depends on who you ask. I will tell you, I think across the board, there's a lack of understanding or a lack of awareness even. I meet with VPs of huge companies that have been in that position for digital, 10, 15 years. And they'll often say, Michele, I feel so bad. I never even thought about this before. I think it's a situation where people it hasn't occurred to them. It hasn't occurred to them that people that are blind or have vision issues or have a different physical disability might go on the internet and have a different experience than the rest of us who can use a mouse or a tracking pad. There are some staggering numbers. You mentioned earlier in your kickoff about how many people have a current disability. Two other things I'd throw out so that the audience really understands the magnitude of this and why it's important to take steps now to work with a platform provider who is working on the core code for your grocery store sites in order to ensure that accessible design can be reached. But by the year 2030, 71 million baby boomers will be over age 65. 10,000 Americans turn 65 every single day. So when you think about people with disabilities, don't think about just totally blind people or just people in a wheelchair that can't use a mouse because they're have a spinal cord injury or something like that. Think about people like my parents who are in their mid-80s, both have iPhones, both schedule doctor's appointments and do their banking online. They have Facebook, and much to our chagrin, they have Twitter. But we are the first generation, I am at least, I don't know how old the other gentlemen are on the call, but I'm going to age dependent on technology to stay in touch with my children and everything else. So this is an emerging compliance issue, but it is truly an emerging social issue. And it is a social issue that we can do something about. Companies have a lot of policies about inclusivity when they hire and all those types of things. But those are the same companies who don't take even a moment to have their HR application portal tested to see if somebody could apply to buy groceries, perhaps, if they had a disability. And that is one of the things where there's just a lot of aha moments. So I think where we find ourselves, companies, vendors, platform providers, and merchants, we find ourselves in an environment where when we know better, we do better. And we're here to just help everybody know better.
To that point, I think there's a huge education effort, and it's one of the reasons why I think we wanted to discuss this topic.
Yeah, when we sat down and we talked about what are the hot buttons in the industry today, right? We talked about GDPR, cyber insurance, and then ADA compliancy.
It ranked right up there, yeah.
In our conversations with Eric, we went in as a technology service provider, realizing a bunch of things, right? We came to the table being super honest and transparent and telling even our retailers and sharing this with the team at Accessible 360, we don't have people in the office that necessarily face the challenge of having a disability. So our approach, as much as I hate to say it, for the most part, we're aware of ADA compliancy. We do scans.
Right.
But it's, to a certain extent, it's like the racehorse with the blinders on, right? So a bit of tunnel vision. And I think within the first meeting with Eric, and Michele touches on this in her answer she just gave us, this is fundamentally a cultural shift, right? So it's not going to be, again, for anyone that's listening, this isn't you're going to wake up tomorrow morning, you're going to hire a firm, you're going to do an audit, you're going to scan, and you're going to be hunky-dory. Technology changes, right? So it has to be a complete cultural shift in terms of how do you approach the design of the technology you're working on? How do you make sure post-development that it is compliant and remains compliant? When you guys go out to market and you're working with tons of different companies, what's the biggest challenge that you're faced? Is it the education portion of this, or is it just making sure people understand like this is a single moment in time?
I would say the biggest thing, hands down, is that this is a new process for development. It is not a project. It's not a bug list. Often, I first deal with internal legal teams or an external legal counsel who is helping strategize a defense for a company who's been legally targeted. And then we bring in all the different players, whether that be an agency or an implementation partner for the platform or the platform provider developers themselves. In the opportunity of working with your wonderful company, we are partnering with the people who will take care of probably about 70% on average of the accessibility issues on an end website. One of the biggest things that I try to get across to companies right from the start is everyone plays a role in accessibility. Your listeners have an opportunity to benefit from the platform moving forward and ensuring that their templates, their themes, and the core code is accessible. But they have to understand that if they touch the front end of the website, they have to be trained and they have to understand how to do that correctly as well. Because here's my good cop, bad cop. I am here to tell you that a platform company can give you a completely compliant template. And if you change the front end of it, you can bring the site out of compliance. So specifically to answer your question, what I'm trying to get across right from the start is that everyone that touches that website or that web application or that native app has to understand accessible design. And when they change anything, they've got to have it reviewed until they know that their process is in a place where they can rely on it to provide an accessible environment, thus allowing everybody into the audience.
Michele, if you had to recommend something to the retailers that are listening out there, best practices, what would those be?
I think some of the best things that they can do is to research. Number one, I would say only work with a platform provider that has already made accessibility a core part of their offering. And by already, I mean those that are getting to it right now. This is new for everyone, but companies like yours that are jumping in and owning the part, they've got to partner with a platform provider that is focusing on accessible design from the ground up. Number two, they've got to teach their internal teams to ensure and that they understand how when they change anything on the front end, that they need to make sure that that's accessible as well. And number three is rely on a qualified accessibility vendor like A360, one that does live user audits to bring the best practices forward for both of your teams regarding accessible design best practices. Rely on them to bring you the updates when the versions or WCAG rules change. Rely on them to bring you training. Rely on them to double check things as you're introducing new templates and landing pages to the site. Our role is to support everyone's activity in development, and we're a very mission-driven organization. Teaching everyone how to do accessible design is what we want to do.
Excellent. Michele and Eric, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today. How can the listeners out there get a hold of you?
Thank you for asking. Accessible 360 can be found at our website, w.accessible360.com. We're also on Twitter @_accessible360.com. And we can be reached directly in the States in Minneapolis, Minnesota, like you called out, at 612-440-3601.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. And don't forget to download our next episode where we're going to be tackling another juicy subject. I'm not sure what it's going to be at this point, Mark, and we got a list of things that we want to tackle. So, Mark, how do people get a hold of us?
Through the web, it's www.mercatus.com. Our social handles are listed on the website, as usual. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone.